All right, so today's speaker is Dr. Jennifer Rosati, and she is the coordinator for the forensic science major at John Jay College. So with that, I just give you the
Okay, so I'll unmute myself. If there's any technical issues, please let Gabby or I know. We can try to get them resolved. So I'm the major coordinator for the forensic science program. So what I'm going to be going over today is kind of some misconceptions that students typically have coming into the program, and also how to become involved in the forensic sciences, what kind of pathways can you take to be a forensic scientist, and then what kind of career outcomes can you have with your degree. So I'm going to share the screen. So just give me a minute to load up the talk. Okay. Can everybody see the screen okay?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So being a college that offers a forensic science degree program, we do get a lot of students coming in that want to be forensic scientists. There's been a lot of interest in the field due to shows like this with CSI. And it's good because it's brought a lot of attention to the field of forensic science. But the downfall is that students may have a misconception about what is involved in becoming a crime scene investigator or someone that works in the forensic sciences. And we want to make sure as advisors for the program that you are well aware of what is entailed in your degree and how to be a successful student while you're here, and also to build up your background so that you have a prosperous career after your time at John Jay College. So many students come in with the idea that they want to be a forensic scientist. So what does that actually mean, and how do you actually get there? So if you want to work in the field of forensic science, there's typically three main pathways that you can take that will get you there. So the first one is actually working in law enforcement. The second pathway is being a civilian with specialized skills that allow you to work in the forensic context. And then the third pathway, which is the pathway most of you are in, is the academic pathway. So I'll just briefly go through the different pathways, because many times these can actually intertwine with each other. And just because you're on the academic pathway doesn't mean that you're not going to fall into one of the other two ways. Okay, sorry, my computer froze for a second. Okay, so everyone sees, I just want to double check everyone sees the law enforcement slide.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Okay, so the first main pathway that a lot of people take to become a crime scene investigator or CSI personnel, this is typically what you see on TV, somebody that is on the actual crime scene and collecting evidence, is through the law enforcement pathway. That means that many of the individuals that are actually on a scene collecting evidence are police officers themselves. So that means that you have to go through the police academy. There's certain physical requirements for that. You have to be a certain level of physical fitness in order to even qualify for the police academy. And you also have a minimum time requirement. So what that means is that when you begin on the police force, you usually start in the lowest ranking, and you usually are a patrol officer. And you don't actually work and get into a crime scene unit until you've put in your time and you have the experience. So you basically need to work up your way along the ranks. As a police officer, you have to get additional training before you then are eligible for a position on the crime scene unit. So many of the individuals that you see collecting evidence have many years of police work behind them and many years of experience. And there's also training that's involved when you are a police officer. They will send you on training courses, certification courses that are geared specifically for working within the police force. And there's also constant training. So there's always new techniques that come out and new courses that are developed. And so then you are constantly getting recertified in certain fields. So this is kind of the main way that you would take if you want to actually be on the scene processing evidence. It's not the only way, but it's the main way. The other kind of pathway is the civilian pathway. And so when you are termed a civilian is somebody that is not a police officer, but can work in conjunction with the police. Sometimes individual police organizations have a certain number of civilians that they will hire. So they have a certain number of civilian positions that are given to qualified personnel, and these people do not have to go through the regular training of becoming a police officer first. And so they would typically be hired as a civilian on the police force. And in this instance, you can have some field experience. It really depends on the position. And also you may be involved in the individual sample collection. So some of there's additional forensic science certificate training that many of these civilians will be required to have. But I want to exercise extreme caution to be very, very clear on the difference between certificate training and degree training, because they're two very different things. And we offer a 4-year degree program, a Bachelor of Science degree program. We do also offer some professional certification through the college, but there's a lot of other colleges out there that will offer certificate courses in fingerprinting and in DNA analysis, but it's not an actual degree. And so they will take your money and they will, you have a small little course or a distance ed course that'll give you a certificate in the end, but that's not necessarily going to get you the qualifications that you need to actually be hired as a civilian. Many times you're looking at a higher level of education that is behind you. So just be very cautious, because forensic science is a selling point for a lot of colleges. And so you will find just these tiny certificate programs out there. So you want to be very cautious about that. But there are some accredited colleges that do give you certification in things like fingerprint analysis, footwear analysis, also forensic photography. So there are some, and I'll go through the certification programs and certification in general. But we do have AAFS, it's American Academy of Forensic Science. It's kind of like a governing body, and they give certification to certain programs. So it's always a good idea to check with the AAFS website, and I have that on my talk as well. So that'll kind of make sure that you're going in the right direction. And like I said, these positions are few and far between, but they are prevalent within different police organizations. You really have to check in with the individual organizations to see what their requirements are. Sometimes they require you to have a degree, sometimes they don't. It really depends. So you kind of have to do the legwork yourself if you want to take this route, and then gear your education so that you're fitting the mold that they have for that specific position. And then now I'll talk about, now I'll talk about the main pathway, and this is the pathway that applies to most of you because you are already on your academic pathway to your degree. And so the main pathway is taking a forensic science program, and that can be a Bachelor of Science, it could be a Bachelor of Arts. And so, but be very clear, Bachelor of Science is different than a Bachelor of Arts. A Bachelor of Science typically covers your chemistry, your biology, your core sciences, whereas a Bachelor of Arts degree is usually more for the social sciences. So maybe anthropology falls underneath that, behavioral analysis would fall under a BA degree. And you can also have graduate degrees, which include your master's or your doctorate degrees. Now, I am aware there are some universities that do offer forensic science that are more science-based, and it is classified as an art. But in general, most of the forensic science degrees should be classified as an actual Bachelor of Science. And so this is the link here. This website here is for the American Academy of Forensic Science. And so they would have a wealth of information about all of the accredited programs and universities. So typically, if you're taking the academic pathway, you get a BSc or a BA in a forensic science type of area or forensic science degree, the one that we offer. The other option is supplementing that with a master's degree, either master's of science or master's of art. And then many of these individuals do get hired in forensic labs. Those can be private or they can be government based. So there's a difference. If people don't know, I'm Canadian, work in New York. So I kind of know a little bit about how forensics runs in North America in general. And so when we do forensic work in Canada, most of ours is centralized by a government-based lab, which is the Center of Forensic Sciences. And so any evidence that is collected, if it's in high profile or homicide investigations, big drug investigations, they usually get the evidence to be processed. It might also be processed within the regional district that it's collected. But in the US, there's a lot more opportunities to become involved in forensic sciences because there's a lot of independent labs that are out there. And there's also labs that are usually run within the different regional police departments. So that means there's a lot of opportunities to actually be hired in a forensic lab. So usually a lot of our students become criminalists, and there's different levels and tiers to being a criminalist, one being the entry level, and then you work your way up. Your salary increases along with your experience and then what level that you're in. But we also offer the criminalists board exams as well. So if you are heading along those paths, then we also offer the certification to kind of get you there. However, many of these job openings are lab-based. That means that once again, you don't have a lot of field sample collection. You're basically working in the lab, processing those samples once they're brought to you. So they would be collected at the scene by the actually trained police investigators. They would be brought to you, and you would maintain that chain of evidence. And you would be processing the sample, writing up your report, and then submitting that report. And there's times where, depending on the nature of the case and how far it goes, you may be asked to testify and be able to explain what your findings are and what you did. So keeping impeccable notes is imperative if this is what is involved in your job. Some of these positions, like I said, would be specialized. So specializing in trace evidence or specializing in running DNA samples. You may be specialized in ballistics or drugs. And so you kind of have a unique specialty that you hone in on, and that's kind of where your position would be. So another misconception that is in CSI is you have one person that kind of runs all the samples and knows everything about all the forensic sciences, and that's not really how it goes. You're specialized within a specific area that falls under the forensic sciences. So there's really no jack of all trades that you, a lot of times on CSI, you have somebody that's investigating, they collect the samples, they also question the suspects and witnesses, and then they also analyze the sample, and that's just not done. Everybody has their own individual role. So along with the academic pathway, so you have an undergraduate degree, and then many people that work in the forensic sciences have a graduate degree, and that can be a master's degree or a doctorate degree. So there's many people that specialize, we call them expert witnesses, and that's something that I mean, Dr. Carthals is an expert witness, I would be an expert witness in entomology. And so a lot of people that are forensic specialists actually have a bachelor's degree, a doctorate degree within a specific area, and then they apply that knowledge in a forensic context. So many of these individuals that are considered to be these expert witnesses are actually associated with a college and university, and that's kind of the way that our faculty is structured. Many of our faculty that work in forensics are core scientists, and then they have the forensic application to their work. So many of these individuals, they're going to be teaching at colleges and universities, they're going to be running their own research labs. They're your professors, they're your supervisors here, and then they do the consultation on the side for forensic cases. And in this instance, you would be called to testify, you would be qualified as an expert witness, and then in certain instances, depending on the nature of your expertise, you may be called to the scene. So in my line of work as a forensic entomologist, for instance, I may be called to the scene to collect insect samples. That would be ideal, but many times it's usually collected at autopsy at the medical examiner's office, or it may be collected by the police personnel. I would then get contacted and then it would get sent to me. But being an entomologist is one of the few professions that you would actually be called into the scene. A lot of times you're called in after the fact to consult a case based on photographic evidence and looking at police reports. So the work is already done and then you're called in to review. So there's many different kind of angles at which you could come into an investigation. So what we offer at John Jay College of Criminal Justice is we do have the Bachelor of Science degree in forensic science. So we have 3 different specializations that are available to students. And these 3 specializations lay in the field of criminalistics, toxicology, as well as molecular biology. So if you wanted to work with trace evidence, for instance, analyzing paint samples, analyzing fibers, hairs, ballistics, all of that falls underneath the main heading of criminalistics. And so that would be, if those were your interests, that would be the track that you would be leaning towards as you go into your 3rd year and you have you have to declare your track. So toxicology, that's working more with blood samples, tissue samples, understanding how drugs affect the body, understanding how they're metabolized, understanding the instrumentation that's needed, and knowing how to use the instrumentation and interpret the results in running toxicological analysis. And then the 3rd track that we have is molecular biology, and this really has to do with bodily fluids. And so if you're interested in DNA, for instance, molecular biology would be the track for you. We also offer the master's in forensic science, and we also have the specializations available in the master's degree as well. And there's many different opportunities, job opportunities that can result from that, and I'll go over that as we kind of finish up the talk. So what we have here at John Jay is we have many different colleagues of mine that specialize into the different areas. Now, once again, they could specialize in these areas alone as a core science or as a forensic application. So we have forensics scientists that work in DNA analysis, Dr. Prince, for instance, criminalistics, chemistry, entomology would be me. We have many great forensic toxicologists, as well as Dr. Yaberbaum in physics, and then Dr. Korthals in anthropology. So what is great about John Jay College is that we have all of these scientists here that cover all of these aspects of forensic science as well. So it kind of gives a unique opportunity to actually learn from scientists that are practicing in these fields. So I know I'm the coordinator for the forensic science program, but we also offer 2 other science degrees. We offer a Bachelor of Science in Toxicology, as well as a Bachelor of Science in Cell and Molecular Biology. And I want to mention them here because a lot of our students do transfer back and forth between the different programs. And so, for instance, somebody might start off in the forensic science program and then realize that maybe the forensic science application isn't for them. They're really passionate about cell and molecular biology in general, and so they may make the switch to that actual science degree. And we also have students that do the opposite. There's some students that start off in say the tox degree and then really like the forensic application for it. And so then they'll switch into the forensic science program. And so all of these degrees that we offer are very interrelated. And they're also very, very strong in the core sciences. Another misconception that students have coming in is they want to be a forensic scientist, and then when they learn that, hey, there's a lot of science involved in that, they kind of go running in the other direction. So you want to make sure that you're well aware of all of the requirements of the program. All of these degree programs are very, very heavy in your core sciences. So that's your math, your physics, chemistry, and biology. So I also want to go over kind of the experiences that you might have that is available to you because you are here at John Jay College. So John Jay is unique. It has a well-established reputation for excellence in the forensic sciences. One of the main reasons that drew me to John Jay College is the opportunities that are given to you as undergraduate students that really strengthen your degree, no matter what your degree is. And so being part of the PRISM program and Junior Scholars program is amazing. It gives you a unique opportunity to get your feet wet at the undergraduate level. And I can tell you there's not a lot of universities and colleges out there that allow you to have this opportunity. Many times you have a fourth year research project that is only a semester long, and really that's your only experience that you can get in the lab. And at John Jay, being part of the undergraduate research programs that we have here, they really get you in second year, and you have 2 to 3 years of working within a lab and working with a mentor, and that really isn't prevalent at a lot of institutions. So I strongly advise you to take advantage of all of those opportunities because really that's what puts you aside when you apply for a job. If they have somebody that's sitting at a certain average, they're going to start delving into what kind of experience you have. And if you actually have hands-on experience working in a lab, that definitely puts you a cut above and makes you a much more competitive candidate. I also want to talk about the FOS. We've got 401 and 402. And so that's something that you can take in third and fourth year once you have enough credits. And these are your research internships. And these can also be more job-related internships. And so these will give you, once again, a great opportunity to experience the field. And so these are kind of the they carry a lot of weight in your last year. You want to give a lot of thought as to what kind of internship experience that you want and what you want to learn from it, and then try to find a supervisor or an intern position that will help you fulfill that. And we give a lot of support to students to finding internship positions, and then as colleagues we usually take many of the students into our lab to do a research project. And then again, we've got the graduate level. You have graduate level courses that give you a lot of experience working with samples and learning the instrumentation involved in processing samples. And then also you have the opportunity to be supervised underneath a forensic specialist. And so you would want to kind of find a supervisor that aligns with what you want to get into. And we have all kinds of different forensic scientists that accept graduate students as well. So as I kind of said before, there's a lot of different career options that students have open to them once they get their degree here at John Jay College. And so I know I said, you have to go through to be a police officer if you want to be a crime scene investigator, and that is true, but there's a lot of people that get a degree and then go into the police college. And having a degree in the forensic sciences would really fast track you to become a member of their CSI unit because you already have a lot of education behind you. And I know in Canada, for instance, they're kind of starting to call for members that work in the forensic sciences on the police force to actually have a degree. And they have recently developed a relationship where between a police college and a university institution that educates and provides degrees for police officers. And so there's a recognition that to work in the forensic sciences, you really have to have, like we've been saying the whole time, you have to have the sciences behind you. And so there's recognition of that. And so your degree isn't wasted if you know want to become a police officer afterwards. It would be an asset to you as well. There's many government organizations that hire criminalists and also hire forensic specialists. So some of our students do work with the FBI, the OCME office, the DEA office. A lot of these individuals will actually come back to John Jay College and give talks throughout the year. And so it really gives a unique opportunity for John Jay alumni to actually come back and talk to students about what they did to be successful and be in the position that they're at. Like I said before, there's a lot of private forensic labs. Some of our colleagues actually run their own independent forensic labs. And that's kind of unique for the US and also I think in the UK as well. But there's many, because there's so many, because forensic science can be privatized, that means that there's a lot of job opportunities that can be available for people that are civilians that have a degree in specialties in the forensic science. Um, and I mean, one of the most traditional jobs is becoming a criminalist. And your forensic science degree pretty much qualifies you for an entry level criminalist position when you're done. And I also have the AAFS site here because there's always postings for jobs that are forensically related on the website. I also encourage you, if you want to get an idea of what you can do with your degree, by all means, go check out the AAFS site and you can see all of the job postings that are out there for different districts. Some of our students go on to medical school, law school, veterinary college. And the one good thing about the forensic science degree program that we have here is that it is so heavy in the sciences that your degree carries weight and actually counts as a core science degree if you are deciding to go on to medical school or veterinary college. Some students, if they do decide that route, they may make the switch to a cell and molecular biology degree, but many students don't, and they are still considered competitive for medical college with a forensic science degree. I can also tell you my experience with the forensic science degree program at my home institution back in Canada. This was not the case. It was not considered a core science degree, and students had a very hard time finding a job afterwards because of that. And I don't see that happening here with students that are coming out with a forensic science degree, and it's because it's so heavy in all of the core sciences. So it really covers you if that is the route that you want to choose. A lot of students go on to work in the health science field or environmental sciences. Keep in mind that when you're talking about forensic toxicology, running tissue samples and looking at blood samples in humans and homicides and those types of investigations is not the only way to apply your knowledge of forensic toxicology. So environmental science and looking at toxicological samples in water samples in the environment, in water runoff from agricultural fields, all of that has to come into play in the environmental sciences. And so there's definitely niche there for toxicology within the environmental science field as well. A lot of our students go on to educate others themselves. So they may go into teachers college, or they may get a master's or PhD degree and then enter in to be adjunct instructors. And then some of our alumni go into government policy, and they can actually make different changes to different areas of the government based upon their knowledge that they got here at John Jay. A lot of our students decide to go on to graduate school, and there's masters, there's PhD programs. We do have the Masters of Forensic Science here. We're looking to get back PhD program. But a lot of our students do go on, and a lot of them have a forensic science degree. I have many students myself that have a forensic science degree. They did their PRISM I was their PRISM mentor, and then from there they went on to pursue a degree in entomology. And so, and I'm sure Dr. Corthals has had the same as well. So keep that in mind, your experiences as an undergrad, and that might lead you to a graduate program in that specific area. And I think before I get into that, I do want to mention too that one of the ways in which to become a forensic scientist is kind of picking your area of expertise. So for me, I'm a forensic entomologist, but my specialty is entomology in general. And I took my undergrad degree in wildlife biology. I took entomology courses, never having a real aside from a just general interest in forensic sciences, it's not as if I geared my degree to become a forensic entomologist. I geared my degree to become a scientist, and I liked entomology. And then I ended up doing my PhD degree uh, under a forensic entomologist. And that's kind of how I fell into it. And a lot of forensic specialists, that's how they fall into it as well. It's like if they want to work and be a forensic DNA specialist, they will get a biochemistry degree or a cell molecular biology degree. They'll do their master's project, and then they'll do their PhD research, and they're considered to be like a molecular biologist. And then when they're designing their project in their undergrad, they might design it with a forensic application that then opens up the door to become a forensic specialist. So just keep that in mind, that there's many different ways in which you can become a forensic specialist, and there's many different doors that are open to you. And it's not just limited because you're in a forensic science program. It's not as if you're limited to only a forensic science career. There's many different career opportunities that could be coming your way. So what I would tell you as students is please become friends with your academic advisors. Proper academic advisement is going to be key to being successful as a student here and getting the most out of your degree. Make sure you know what your requirements are for your major. If you're deciding to take a minor, know what those requirements are as well. So because the forensic science degree is so heavy, there's not a lot of students that will, not a lot of room for getting a minor. But there are minors that are out there, and these can supplement your degree. And so just be aware that they're available to you, and what kind of courses that you need to fulfill that, so that when you apply for graduation, if you meet the eligibility requirements for that minor, then it gets added to your degree. So you have your degree, and then you have the minor as well. And that, once again, strengthens your degree. And so like, let's say you were in the toxicology program, maybe you want to get a minor in like environmental science and sustainability, and that would then strengthen your degree in the environmental sciences. And so looking at the minors could be very helpful. And once again, your advisors are here. So if that's what you want to do, you talk to an advisor and they make sure that you're on the right path and you're selecting the right courses. So I want to go over this because we get a lot of students that come in that have a lot of questions with the courses that they need and what the program entails. And so this is our general kind of advisement form for forensic science. And this goes over all of the courses that you would need to take. And so you can see that we've got your first year is up here. So your first year, you're taking your bio courses 103, 104, Chem 103, Chem 104. You're also taking Calc 1 and 2. And then when you progress into your second year, you're taking your organic chem 1 and 2, your quant, and then your physics 1 and 2. Now, keep in mind, you want to keep a full semester. And so you would be picking electives then to supplement the rest to make sure that you have a full course load. And those electives can either be geared towards a minor, if that's what you're deciding to do, or you'd pick from your gen ed, your general science, and all of those kind of elective courses. And all of that is in the kind of college handbook. And all of that can be found on the forensic science page as well. And then your minors would be on your minor page. Then you take your physical chem, your biochem. These are your third year, instrumental 1 and 2, and your statistics. And then you are eligible for your FOS 401 or 402. And then here's when you get into the different tracks. And so this is why, if you notice, the first 2 years of the forensic science program, it doesn't matter what track you're in, all of them are the same. And so this means that all of your core sciences you're going to take within the first 2 years of your degree. When you get into third year, this is when you start diverting off into your specialty area that you choose, your track, because you have the knowledge behind you. Now you're going to take courses that are specialized into the actual areas of expertise that you want to learn more about. And so here we've got the courses for the criminalistics track. Keep in mind there's other courses that are relevant to the criminalistics tracks as well, but they're your elective courses. You can choose which ones you want to take, but these are the core ones that you have to take in order to meet your degree requirements. The toxicology track here, and then the molecular bio track here. So another important thing to keep in mind is that this is a plan for a 4-year degree. And what that means is that in order for you to get into third and fourth year, you have to have all of the prerequisite courses completed. And a lot of students kind of think that when they come into the college, well, I'm going to take my electives and I'm not going to worry about my core science courses. And that is one of the biggest mistakes that we see, because you can't get down here unless you've done this. And this is usually in a 2-year sequence, right? And usually semester by semester sequence. So you have to take Bio 103 to get into Bio 104. You can't take any higher biology courses unless you've done that sequence. The same for chemistry. So it's really important that you follow your sequence, because if you fall out of sequence, this usually means that it's going to take you another semester or potentially another year to complete your degree. So that's why academic advising is so important, because we want to make sure that you are on track to complete your degree in an appropriate amount of time. And if you can't, we also want to advise you to make sure that you are completing it in a reasonable time, and that you're selecting the proper courses. I can't say that enough. We get so many students coming in. It's like, well, why didn't you take this? And you're supposed to take this, and you can't take that because now you have to go back and you've got to take these 2 courses. So don't fall in that. It's easy to take electives. I'm going to take 1 science course and I'm going to take or two science courses, and then I'm going to take electives because I don't want my semester to be, too science heavy. But I mean, unfortunately, you're in a science degree program, so your focus needs to be the sciences. The electives, yes, can offset that, but if you take too many, you're going to delay your degree completion. So my advice to all of you, know your options for different degrees that we have here, know your options for the minors that we offer. Take advantage of all the opportunities that we have. You guys are already in the Junior Scholars Program, and there's so much more opportunities and advice that you get in these programs. I mean, Ed and Gabby are always working with students to get them, the proper resources to study for MCATs and GREs, and getting those summer internships. And I mean, they work really, really hard to support the students. And it's one of the selling points of John Jay College is definitely having them on staff, because we really want to make sure that you're doing what's right for you, and being successful as a student, so that way you're successful as an adult. I mean, you are adults now, but I mean in your professional career. So take advantage of all these opportunities that are there. Take advantage of the support and the guidance that is offered to you, because it definitely will help you out in the long run. And I'll stop the screen sharing right now. Does anybody have any questions?
Yes, I do have one question, if I may.
Yeah.
So, I'm a computer science major, but I kind of just took a glimpse at the forensics because I am considering to do like digital forensics. What does John Jay have to offer for that field of study?
So it's not really in our forensic science degree is, like I said, heavy in the actual sciences. But I do believe within I'd have to take a look at all the majors that are offered, and I apologize, I'm not familiar with every single major that is offered here at John Jay, but they do have, I think they do have majors that are offered within the computer science college. So you might want to check with an academic advisor in that department, and in IT services, because I know, like, we have the fire science degree, and I know there's another kind of technological degree that is offered that would be more appropriate.
I believe the computer science major also has the cybersecurity track.
That's it. Yes, the cybersecurity. Sorry, thanks, Gabby.
So that's something you may want to look into.
All right, thank you.
I see a question.
Also, I just wanted to point out that you can look for ways that you can apply computer science in a forensic science context. Like maybe you are modeling a scenario for a forensic scientist, for example, that could potentially be something you're interested in.
I'd also say with your degree, if you're in the computer science, kind of along the lines of what Gabby just mentioned, is when you get to your fourth year, you usually have to do some sort of project. And so if you gear your project to a forensic application, that kind of opens up the door for the field of forensics as well. And so if you have a properly designed project, it can do wonders for you. And then if you say present your findings at something like the Academy of Forensic Science, they meet every year, their annual conference. And if you do a presentation there, that usually puts you in a position where you're surrounded by people that are interested in the same field. And I've had a lot of students that have done that, and a lot of friends of mine in graduate school that have done that and have lined up subsequent graduate school openings because of that. So that's kind of another way to kind of open up the door for you.
All right, we have several questions. The first one, my lab professor was talking to me about the possibly working at the OCME. Would I need to be specialized in toxicology, or can I remain in criminalistics?
It's either or. They take people and students from all tracks. So you don't necessarily have to be in the toxicology track.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I understand that students sometimes double track as well.
Yes, they can double track. We don't have a lot of students that do that, but yes, you can double track. And once again, it's usually pairing up with an academic advisor to make sure that you're meeting the requirements of both of the tracks. So yes, that is possible.
Okay, the next question is, what are some possible internships we can currently do during our undergrad?
So I know that some of the colleagues that have their own private companies have taken interns from John Jay. Medical Examiner's Office, NYPD has internships. There's also some people that get internships at like NYU. So there's kind of a broad range of internships that are available. And that's more of the job-related internships. There's also working with any of the research scientists that we have on campus as well.
Okay. The next question is, what are some opportunities that can arise from going to medical school? And then there's the second question, is there much of a difference between a doctorate degree and a PhD?
Well, a doctorate degree is a PhD. And so, but a PhD is different than a medical degree. So a lot of students come in and they say they want to be a pathologist, for instance. And I tell them, well, if you want to be a pathologist, the way to get there is going to medical school. And once again, your degree in forensic science could help you become a medical examiner because you have the forensic training behind you, and you would also meet the requirements to get into med school. But a medical degree is different than the PhD. PhD stands for Doctor of Philosophy. And so this is when you're testing theories and advancing the field that you want to study in. So just kind of elaborate on that question a little bit. So there's different types of doctorate degrees that are out there. PhD is one of the doctorate degrees that are out there, as well as a medical degree.
Also, for a student that asked about medical school and the opportunities that can arise from going to medical school, I suggest you talk to Dr. Ed, the pre-health advisor. He is here to answer those types of questions. So let me put his email on the chat. You should reach out to him and schedule a pre-health appointment as well.
Yeah, and I know from my own personal experience, you guys are great at getting students the experience that they need to be very competitive in that process. You guys are very helpful in that.
Any other students that have questions? So this student is a computer science major and a forensics fraud minor. They have been considering taking a second minor. Is a chemistry minor something that would be able to help them if they are interested in working in a lab?
I think so, yes. Yeah, okay. If you have room for a chemistry minor, that would definitely strengthen your degree, yes. So that if you even plug in just chemistry minor, John Jay College, the minor page will come up, and it comes up with all of the courses that you would need to fulfill the chemistry minor. So you can, if you've already done a minor, you're familiar with you just fill out the paperwork, declare your minor, but then you're going to want to get the academic counseling to make sure that you're taking all of those courses along with your degree.
So I just had another question. So can you elaborate like on the different tracks that are available again? And like, I guess if some people wanted to take like 2 tracks at the same time?
Yep. I'll, you know what, I will share the screen. I'll go back to that slide. Okay, so these are the 3 main tracks that we have: criminalistics, the toxicology, and molecular biology. And like I said, the criminalistics, that's working with the trace evidence, ballistics, and things like that, hair fibers, carpet fibers, paint chips, because you're working with a lot of spectroscopy, IR techniques to be able to identify some unknown fibers and matching them with things that are normally in the database. You can use SEM and different microscopy techniques, and that would fall underneath the criminalistics. The toxicology is more the chemistry behind drugs, metabolism of drugs, and then molecular biology is more of the DNA. And so, yes, there is the kind of way to do double tracks. And yes, students have done that, but you need to make sure that you understand and know exactly what courses that you need to do that. So going back to here, this really illustrates the difference in those tracks. I'm going to stop share. I'm going to do a new share because I have the advisement form here that it'll probably be easier for you to see this way. So here's where you come down. The first 2 years, like I said, are always the same. So here's where you come down to the real difference between those tracks. So the criminalistic tracks, these are the core courses that you need to take. But keep in mind, There's other criminalistic courses that you need to take. It's just they're more electives, meaning that there's a pool of courses, like 15 courses. And of those 15 courses, you get to choose a certain amount to fulfill your degree requirements. And then the same for the toxicology track. These are the core ones that you absolutely have to take. And then you can select a certain number from the toxicology pool. And then the same for the molecular biology. So there is the way that you can combine the two tracks together, but keep in mind that means you're basically taking all core science courses. It doesn't really leave a lot of room for many electives after that. And you really want to talk to an advisor to make sure that there's no overlap. So I mean, some courses will count specifically for the criminalistic track and they won't count as electives for the toxicology. So you just want to make sure that you're really choosing the right courses, because you don't have room to make a mistake at all in choosing your courses if you want to finish on time. But you can see that like you can do a toxicology. There's students that do the toxicology and molecular biology track because they're interested in the cell biology as well as the toxicology of it as well. Or a lot of students do the criminalistics and the toxicology track. I mean, I don't want to say a lot of students, but students that do double track or double major, that's kind of the trend that most people choose. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, that definitely answered my question. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I just had, again, one more question, if you don't mind.
Yep.
Like, can you elaborate also on becoming like a forensic specialist and what that entails too?
So what do you mean with respect to a forensic specialist?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. It's just you mentioned it before in the presentation. I'm not sure if like I caught everything you said about it.
Okay. I think what you're trying, okay, just correct me if I'm wrong or if I don't answer, just ask it again. But many people that work in the field of forensics are considered specialists in their specific area because they have an extensive knowledge base in that area. So many people that are considered to be a forensic specialist in DNA, for instance, have a base degree in like biochemistry, and they have a master's degree in, say, biochemistry or cell biology, and then they have their doctorate degree. And so it's because they have such a high level of education in a specific area, but then they turn and apply it within a forensic setting. So when they do research, they're doing research with a forensic application to it. A colleague of mine, for instance, she's considered to be a forensic chemist, but she's a chemist by nature. And so she's gotten her degree in chemistry or PhD in chemistry. She does she teaches chemistry. That chemistry is her field of expertise, but then she also has the forensic aspect of it, of analyzing samples in a forensic kind of context. And so that's where she gets the forensic specialty. And so it's not as if the only way to become a forensic specialist is by getting a forensic science degree. A lot of times it's by getting educated in a specific area, getting a high education with a graduate degree within that area, and then applying it and doing research with the forensic mindset and contributing to the field with your work, contributing to the forensic sciences. And so that's kind of the other way to become a forensic specialist. And that's more gearing your project and gearing your research interests with a forensic nature to them. For instance, like being an anthropologist, to be a forensic anthropologist, you're just applying it to a forensic nature. So most forensic anthropologists are an anthropologist, and then they do their project, their graduate project with a forensic context to it, opens up the door, and then they end up doing like the case and consulting on the side once they have their designation as a PhD.
Thank you for clarifying that.
You're welcome. It just kind of shows you guys that there's many opportunity. If you really, I tell students, if you really want to become involved in the forensic sciences, there's a way to do it, and there's multiple ways to do it as well. It doesn't have to be strictly with a forensic science degree, and the vice versa. Having a forensic science degree doesn't limit you to the forensic sciences. It really can open up your doors to a lot of different opportunities.
Any other questions? Okay. So if we don't have any other questions, I will stop recording, and